Have you ever walked down a dark corridor and felt something walking right behind you? But when you turned around, there was nothing. Have you ever felt the weight of an invisible stare? Or heard someone whisper your name, even when you were completely alone? My name is Edward. I'm 42 years old. And what I'm about to tell you is something I've carried with me for 20 years. Something that still haunts me every time I close my eyes. It all started when I accepted a temporary job as a night watchman at the old cemetery in Philadelphia. It was an isolated place, on top of a hill, surrounded by twisted trees, and always shrouded in a thick fog that seemed too unnatural. The rusty iron gate creaked with the wind. The gravestones were covered in moss, some cracked and others too sunken. There was a small annex building where the vertical tomb corridors were, like stacked stone drawers inside. The smell was unbearable. A mix of mold, old wood, and something rotten. Something dead. My routine was simple. Patrol the corridors, check for vandals, and record any incidents. But on that first night, I knew there was something more there. Something that waited in the dark. On the second round, I heard a sound coming from the west corridor. It was like soft, hurried footsteps. I ran over there. Nothing. The flashlight started to flicker. When it returned to normal, I noticed a shadow passing by the back wall. I thought it was a reflection, but there was no mirror in the break room. I met the other watchman, Mr. Louise, a quiet old man who avoided night shifts. When I asked if he had ever heard strange things, he replied, without looking me in the eyes, "The shadows only show themselves to those they choose." "Boy, what do you mean?" I asked. "Some people enter those corridors and never come out whole." That night, I dreamed of open graves and a voice whispering my name from the depths of the earth. As the days passed, things worsened. One night, I found all the candles in the chapel lit at the same time, even though I hadn't lit any. On the altar, there was a small cross, upside down. The shadows on the walls started to move on their own. They danced, stretched, seemed to watch. In one of the corridors, I saw a drawer door half open. I approached. There was a name engraved in old letters, Isabella Mendez, deceased. In 1901, I pushed the drawer to close it. That's when I felt it cold fingers gripping my wrist. I screamed. I fell backward. The drawer was completely closed, but my arm had red marks, as if nails had gripped me tightly. On the last night, everything was revealed. It was a moonless night. The cemetery generator failed. I had to walk in the dark, just with a weak flashlight. The main corridor was darker than usual. The flashlight flickered, and then I saw it. A figure standing at the end of the corridor. Tall, thin, faceless. No eyes, just shadows dancing around. It began to move toward me slowly, without making a sound. The air grew heavy, as if I were breathing smoke. My legs froze. My ears buzzed. It whispered, "You entered where you shouldn't have. Now, you are mine." I was overcome by a piercing pain in my chest. I blacked out. I woke up hours later. On the chapel floor, Mr. Louise found me and took me to the hospital. They said I had a mild cardiac arrest, but the doctor showed me something. A dark spot on the X-ray of my heart. According to him, it didn't make sense. It looked like a shadow. After that day, I never returned to the cemetery. I quit my job. I burned the uniform I tried to forget, but at night, in the corridors of my own house, the shadows are still there, still waiting, as if what I saw had come with me. And now, let me ask you, what if what hides among the graves doesn't just want to scare you, but follow you forever? Have you ever had this strange feeling that something was smiling at you in the dark? Not a gentle smile, but something cold, too wide, full of teeth, standing silently in a corner you dare not look at. My name is Jacob, and what I'm about to tell you is something that cost me my sanity. It all started 12 years ago, with a simple job in a forgotten cemetery, and it ended with a smile that I still see every time the light goes out. I was an archaeology student when I got an internship on a project to restore ancient graves at Snow Cemetery, a rural necropolis founded at the end of the 19th century. The place was isolated. The weeds swallowed some of the graves. The angel statues were broken, many without heads, and in the center of the property, there was a sunken crypt made of black stone with Gothic inscriptions that no one could translate. The smell of damp, earth and rot was constant. The air felt trapped in time, and the sound was the worst. Sometimes, when everyone left, I would hear low laughter that seemed to come from inside the crypt. On the team, there was a man named Jonas, the local gravedigger. He was quiet, strange, and wore a necklace made of human teeth. One night, I stayed late to take some photos. The sun had disappeared behind the twisted trees. I was preparing to leave when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there was no one but ... The flashlight illuminated something, a mark on the wall of the crypt. It was a drawing made with soot, as if it had been left by burned fingers. A smile, a wide smile with sharp teeth. The next day, I asked Jonas about it. He merely murmured, "There are things that don't like to be seen in the dark." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Don't smile back. Never smile back." The following week, the equipment started to fail. Batteries drained, recorders deleting files, photos appearing, blurred, distorted. But one of them caught my attention, an image captured inside the crypt. I didn't remember taking it, but in it, there was a figure in the background, with chalk-white skin, completely black eyes, and a smile too wide for a human face. I showed it to the others. They said it was just interference. That night at home, I woke up to something staring at me in the corner of the room. It didn't speak, it didn't move, it just smiled. The smile glowed in the dark, literally, as if it were made of phosphorus. I ran to the switch. When I turned on the light, there was nothing, but my cat was dead, lying on its side, with its legs stretched out, and on the floor, drawn with its claws. The same smile from the crypt. I was going insane. I went to Jonas, desperate, demanding answers. He simply said, "You've seen him now. He sees you." What? What does he want? Smiles. He feeds off the curve of fear. The more you fear, the more he smiles. I returned to the cemetery, determined to put an end to it. I entered the crypt. It was dark like a hole in the world. I used matches to light the way. Each flame revealed walls covered with carved faces, all with the same expression. Mouths open in horrible smiles, eyes sculpted in pure terror. At the back of the crypt, I found him, crouched, waiting. His skin was dripping as if it were melting, the mouth so wide that it stretched from one ear to the other, and he smiled. He spoke, without moving his lips. "You smiled when you saw me. Now we are one." The flame went out, and all that remained was the sound of my own laughter, echoing in the dark. Today I live locked in a room without windows. Every light I try to turn on fails, and when the darkness takes over, he is there, in the corner, quiet, smiling, but the worst is that sometimes I smile back, as if something inside me liked it. Now tell me, have you ever smiled in the dark, not knowing why, and if it wasn't you who was smiling? Have you ever felt like you were in a place that doesn't belong to this world? A place where everything seems to right, until it starts to go wrong on purpose. My name is Lucas, and what I'm about to tell you haunts me every time I see colored lights in the middle of the road. It was almost 5 years ago, when my brother and I took a shortcut by car through an unknown mountain. What we found at the top was not a fair like any other. It was an invitation, a test, and I failed. It was a Friday night. We were going to a rented cabin with friends, but missed the main road and the GPS stopped working. The only option was to follow the old road through Serra de Alta, a place that didn't even show up on maps. My brother Matthias was driving. He was always the impulsive one, the type who laughs at funerals and jokes about serious things. I, on the other hand, was skeptical, scared, perhaps. The road was narrow, filled with curves. The tall weeds hid rusty signs, and the radio signal became static. That's when, as we turned a bend, we saw the lights colorful, flashing at the top of the hill, hanging from poles that shouldn't be there, like a country fair appearing out of nowhere. Matthias laughed. "Look, it looks like there's a fair here, in the middle of the mountains. Let's check it out. Maybe there's corn on the cob." Against my will, he turned the car onto the dirt road that led to the lights. The first strange thing was the silence. Despite the flashing lights and spinning rides, there was no music, no voices, just a hissing in the air, as if we were listening to the world breathe through machines. There were stalls, cotton candy, shooting gallery, fishing, but no one behind the counters. The rides worked on their own. The Ferris wheel turned slowly, the chairs swaying in the wind. The carousel played an off-key tune that stopped and started again, nonsensically, and then, ... We saw the people, but something about them was wrong. They moved like puppets, frozen smiles. Old-fashioned clothes, as if from another time. No one looked directly at us, until a woman, with dark hair and a red dress, appeared beside us. "Is this your first time here?" she asked with a calm smile. What is this place?" Matthias replied. She tilted her head, like a curious animal. "It's the mountain fair. You've been invited." "By whom?" "By the mountain itself." And then she disappeared. She didn't walk away. She just ... vanished. We started to see things. Matthias swore. He saw our deceased father in the mirror of a funhouse, only younger, as he was before he died. I heard my mother calling me from the top of the Ferris wheel, but she passed away in 2009. The stalls began to change. The fishing one had fish with human eyes. The shooting gallery used portraits of us as targets, and a handwritten sign in red ink: "Win the game, or you will never leave." We tried to run the road back. It had disappeared. In its place, there was only fog, and the laughter, now louder, as if the fair had awakened. A figure appeared on the main stage, tall, faceless, wearing a red coat and a top hat. "Ladies and gentlemen, ... the show is about to begin." His voice echoed in our heads. He pointed at us, ... and the fair lights went out. Except for one, we were in the center of the fair, a circle. A fire formed around us. The guy in the coat extended his hands. Two entered. "One may leave," Matthias shouted. "Is this a joke?" "Every fair demands payment," said the figure. "And you played without paying." I saw Matthias disappear into the darkness. His scream lasted exactly 7 seconds. Then, silence. The figure looked at me. "Accept the price, or stay." I closed my eyes. I felt the cold wind, and when I opened them, I was back in the car alone on the road. The fair had vanished. Only a paper bracelet remained on my wrist. Written, "Visitor No, 1084, Lucas M." No one believed me. Matthias was reported missing. But sometimes, when I pass through mountain roads, I see lights flashing up high, and I hear carousel music in the distance. Was it real? Or are there places between our world and the next, where we are just pieces in ancient games? And you, if you saw an isolated fair on a mountain at night, Have you ever entered a cemetery so old that it seemed to whisper stories? Have you ever felt invisible eyes following your every step, even when no one was around? This is the true story of someone who dared to enter where even the dead do not rest in peace, and found the guardian. Please, do not say my name. I don't want this to follow me. I just need to tell. Share it with someone. This story happened 4 years ago, and since then, I sleep with the lights on. I go by DJ, and I was an architecture intern in a small town in the countryside of Minas Gerais. My supervisor was a retired Freemason, passionate about ancient structures, especially forgotten crypts and historic cemeteries. He was the one who took me to the site, São Miguel Arcano Cemetery. But no one warned me that there existed a guardian. The cemetery sat atop a hill, surrounded by eucalyptus trees that whispered like laments. The tombstones were covered in thick moss. The smell was a heavy mix of wet earth, dead flowers, and something metallic, like dried blood. With each step I took, it made a hollow sound, as if the ground were not completely solid. "You're going to like this crypt, DJ," my supervisor said with a strange smile. "It was built by Freemasons in the 19th century. No one has entered there for over 50 years. I thought, then why are we going in now? There was a rusty iron gate that creaked open with a deep groan. We descended with lanterns in hand. Down a stone staircase. It was damp. The sound of our footsteps echoed too much, as if something was listening to us. We reached the main chamber. The walls had strange symbols carved into the stone, squares all-seeing eyes, and a symbol that looked like an arcane seal in the center. There was a black sarcophagus. My supervisor approached it, and then something changed in the air. The wind ceased. The silence became absolute. Then we heard it. 3 knocks, coming from inside the stone. Knock, 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 knock. My legs froze. My supervisor stepped back and murmured, "He is still here. The guardian has not rested." The lantern lights began to flicker. A shadow started to rise from the corner of the room, but there was nothing there. Nothing visible. Just ... condensed darkness. I felt the temperature dropped. My breath condensed in the air. The shadow had form. It wore a ceremonial cloak, its face covered by a bone mask. It stared at us without eyes. Who profanes this sanctuary? Its voice sounded like an echo of 1,000 voices. Shall be part of the veil forever. My supervisor fell to his knees, repeating a prayer I had never heard before. I, not knowing what to do, ran. I ran through the corridors, stumbling over ancient bones, banging into sealed tombs. The sound of the guardian's footsteps behind me was like the creaking of death. I escaped. Or at least, that's what I thought. Since that day, I have dreams of the crypt. I hear the knocks every night. Knock, 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 as if he were getting closer. ... As if I never left there. They say the Freemasons buried deep secrets in that cemetery, and that the guardian swore to protect them with his very soul. But I wonder, when someone enters a place like that, is it really possible to leave whole? And you, would you enter a crypt where the silence speaks louder than the dead? If you found this frightening, wait until you hear what happened to a couple who stayed at the haunted hotel, ... where apparitions and ghosts not only walk the halls, but knock at the door, ... asking to come in. Don't miss the next tale here on the channel. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and sleep with one eye open. Have you ever had the feeling of being watched, even while being alone? Have you ever heard whispers coming from nowhere, in the absolute silence of a dark room? If your answer is no, you might be lucky, but me, I didn't have that luck. Call me Smith. What I'm about to tell here is something that destroyed a part of me. Something that, to this day, I would prefer to believe was a delusion. But at WASN, single quotes, It all started 2 years ago. On a work trip, it was a rainy Tuesday in March. I work in security auditing for old buildings, and I was sent to assess a hotel in a historic little town called Snow, nestled in the interior of Minas Gerais. The hotel. Oh, the hotel. Its name was Hotel Aurora, and ironically, it looked anything but bright. It was located away from the center, on top of a small hill surrounded by twisted trees, like skeletal fingers trying to reach the sky. The building dated back to the end of the century, and its facade was a dull yellow, almost gray from age. The windows had thick, foggy, and brittle glass, and a strange feeling hit me as soon as I stepped in for the first time. A kind of ... Wait, as if the air around me had become denser. I was greeted by an elderly lady with small dark eyes who didn't tell me her name. She simply handed me the key to a room, number 212. On the second floor, the elevator wasn't working. For a long time, she said with a crooked smile. So I climbed the creaking stairs, with my suitcase in hand, hearing my steps echo, as if someone were repeating them just behind me. The first night my room was cold, even with all the windows closed. The walls had mold stains forming strange shapes, like faces. The bed was large, covered with a thick and heavy blanket that smelled like something stored for decades. That night, I heard noises coming from the room next door. Muffled screams, repeated knocks. On the wall behind the headboard of the bed, the next morning, I asked the receptionist, the same lady as before, if there were guests in the room next door. She just stared at me, her eyes sunken in wrinkles, and said, "Room 214 is empty since 1964. I laughed, puzzled, thinking it was a joke. But at WASN, something else happened. While taking a shower, I heard 3 knocks on the bathroom door. I thought it was the water running, but soon after, I heard a heavy breathing. Outside the curtain, I opened the curtain in a rush, my heart racing, ... Nothing, just the fogged mirror, and ... A phrase written with a finger, "Come back." On the third day, I didn't sleep. I sat in the old armchair, staring at the door, waiting for something or someone to appear. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway, but they weren't normal footsteps. They were ... dragged, heavy. I slowly opened the door. The hallway was shrouded in dim light. A single lamp flickered at the end of the corridor, revealing 4 fractions of a second. A silhouette, tall, skeletal, with a face covered by a black veil. The figure began to come towards me. The eyes, yes, I swear I saw the eyes, burned red behind the veil, and a whisper filled the air. "You shouldn't be here, ... I ran, stumbling down the stairs, to the lobby, but it was empty. The reception, ... abandoned. And when I tried to leave through the front door, ... it was locked with rusty chains. That hadn't been there the day before. The hotel, ... had trapped me that night. I saw things that defy any explanation. Shadows in the mirror, doors opening by themselves, whispers calling my name like a cursed song. And then, in the last moment of despair, I saw her, the woman in the veil, sitting in the armchair of my room, staring at me with ancestral hatred behind her, bodies hanging from the ceiling, as if the hotel fed on the souls of those who dared to question its secrets. I fainted. I woke up in the town hospital. They found me unconscious on the dirt road, 2 kilometers from the hotel, with scratches on my back and bruises on my legs. The police never found the so-called Hotel Aurora. I still have nightmares. I still hear the whispers saying my name when the world goes silent. And the strangest part, ... Sometimes, I wake up with scratch marks on my skin, as if something were still trying to pull me back. I don't know what that place was, but one thing is certain. Some hotels don't want guests, they want souls, and you. Have you ever been to a place that felt alive. If you liked this chilling tale, subscribe now to the channel Nightmares and Supernatural Stories. Share this video with someone brave enough to listen until the end. And remember, you are never truly alone.